Okay, good evening, councillors and others, staff, Christina. Welcome to this meeting of the Finance and General Purposes Committee on the 16th of April 2025. First item on the agenda is apologies for absence received.
Thank you, Chair. We have apologies from Councillor Black, who has a travel commitment.
Okay. Item 2 is declarations of interest. To receive any declarations of disclosable pecuniary interest from members in respect of business on the agenda. Anyone? Okay. Item 3 is minutes of the Finance and General Purposes Committee. This is actually a meeting on the 12th of March, I think. Attachment 1. I have to give apologies for that meeting. I had a diary malfunction, I'm afraid, so I couldn't be there. Do we have any matters arising on page 1, page 2, page 3, or page 4?
Propose acceptance of the minutes, Chair.
Second. All those in favour? Thank you. Item 4 is public participation, a 20-minute session for members of the public. Do we have anyone who wishes to
No request.
speak? No request. Okay, so we shall move on in that case to item 5, which is the payment schedule and finances. Items 5A to 5G. Attachments 2A to 2G. I'll take these one by one because this is the place where we carry out more scrutiny of these figures, so that we can then take them to council and hopefully not have too much discussion. So first of all is attachment 2A, expenditure transactions for the end of March 25. 2A, anything on 2A?
Yeah, I was going to just ask about item 1557, parking permits for market traders. Do we buy them and then they pay back?
That's
Is that
correct.
correct? Or
That's
so
correct.
We haven't been buying them for them, have we?
No.
Oh, that's
We,
okay.
we collect the money then from them after we
Oh,
pay.
super, thank you.
Yes, I wanted to ask about 1567, which is a payment of £750 to Summerfield Consultants Limited for professional services rendered in the completion and submission of the application for registration of the proposed charitable incorporated organisation. This is to do with the Georgina Maddox Charitable Trust. Now, as I remember it, and I may be misremembering, I thought we had agreed to pay an additional £350 to Levick's to redo their submission. So what is this additional £750? I mean, have we paid the £350 to Levick's, and is that in addition to this £750 to another organisation?
So Summerfield Consultants it's my understanding that's another organisation within Levick's. So it's like another, arm's length, or no, not arm's length, but another part of the organisation. I've checked at the Company's House. It is the same address. It's registered at the same address. So it's all part of the organisation. But
Did we agree 750?
that was the original figure. So they've obviously invoiced while I was away for the first completion, because we've now agreed that we're going to do the second submission. So
Which will cost an additional 350.
Yes.
Is that right?
So this is the invoice for the first application.
For the first tranche,
Yes.
which failed.
Yes.
I raised this with the RFO. Julie Griggs was the person dealing with this.
Yes.
And it was the first attempt at registering the trust, the CIO.
Yeah.
Okay. And what is the news about the second application?
I don't think there's been any progress since I've been away, so I've got to email Julie and pick that up with her this week.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, sorry, last one was 1570, and I've raised this before, but I'm just wondering if our contractors are getting a little bit too used to sort of invoicing us. This one here, I mean, there may be more behind it, but it says it was a repair of a light pull cord at the key conveniences, but £272. I'm just wondering, because the problem is we've kept with Wyman's for quite a long time now, and without any comparison prices, I just don't want the contractors to feel that they can invoice more or less what they want, although I know the company quite well myself.
I just that it was an emergency. It was a cord that had gone in the disabled toilets,
I see.
and so yeah, we had to get them out very quickly
I see.
to do it. And it was actually a part that the whole thing needed to be replaced. So it wasn't just a straightforward.
So it wasn't just the pull cord.
No, it was the actual sort of fitting itself, but it had to be done quickly. So because that's the actual alarm. And there has been a case where someone didn't do that. Someone was actually stuck inside a toilet before, which was very tragic. So no, so I find their prices personally are reasonable, very quick. I mean, to me, it's not just about the price; it's to get them to go out and honest with their appraisals when they look at items.
Yeah.
So
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
And then they need to go and collect parts and stuff like that.
yeah, they're exactly that. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, if I may, 1571, £1,020 for general legal advice regarding agendas and resolutions. Could you just shed some light as to
This was
what
the
that
advice.
was, and have we actually got a copy of the legal advice that was received?
Yes, you have had that shared with members. This was the Councillor Gray and Christina Glynn raised an issue with the confidentiality on agendas. So I sought this legal advice after I went to Calc. I got the advice from Calc to go to Surrey Hills and get the legal definition from them, and that has been shared in the report with members.
Okay. Anything else on 2A? So I'll go through all of these and then we'll take them on block at the end, if that's okay.
Proposed acceptance of 2A.
We'll take them on block at the end.
Oh, I thought you said you were taking them individually.
Is that okay?
Just go through.
It's a long way across.
All right. Okay. Next is 5B, which is attachment 2B. Approval list. This is payment schedules for mid-April. Anything on this one?
Yes.
So Alison?
1583, transport for the mayor and mayoress to Canterbury Cricket Ground, £109.20. Seems an awful lot of money.
Yes, because the driver take us there and had to bring us back. We went to a charity event.
Yes, I thought that was probably the case, but I still don't understand why he
It's
needed
his
to,
time.
or she needed to wait.
He had to,
He did have to wait.
Yeah.
So,
because we are in chains.
so
We
it's
have all
not
our
the
chains.
mileage, it's a
Yeah,
very
it's a
short
waiting
distance. But
But
he had to
because we
wait
are wearing
for.
chains, you see.
Is
So
this a Cinque Ports charity
It
event?
is, yeah.
But you couldn't have gone in a taxi.
We wouldn't have anybody with us for the chains.
chains, you see. Because we're wearing chains.
When you're
you
wearing
see,
the
that's why it's
chains,
like
you can't
guardians
go-
of chains.
Can't go.
Just with
Yeah,
taxi.
you've got to have somebody with you. All the other mayor and mayoresses all have town sergeants
Yes,
with
their
them.
time, you see.
We don't have a town sergeant, we never have had, so that's why you have to pay for the driver. You either get town sergeant or, accept the drivers.
Right, because I mean we did buy a sash, which was
Yeah,
supposed to.
but that's not for Singapore because you need everybody wear chain. You can't just turn up in sash.
Okay.
It's everybody in chains. You see. Yeah. They particularly request all of us wearing chains.
Mhm. Okay. Anything else on 2B? Okay, shall we move on to 5C, which is 2C attachment, which is the payment schedule for mid-April. Anything on this? No? Happy with that one?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll move on to 5D, which is attachment 2D, which is the paid expenditure transactions that missed March 25. Not much
Yeah, sorry, can I just go back? I'm just reflecting on one because only because I'm seeing it in front of me and just doing a quick calculation in my head. The business rates for the forecourt itself come out at somewhere circa 8,000 to 9,000 per annum. If that is a monthly charge, it might not be. No. So okay, so that was my concern. So what does it equate to, that charge? Is that an annual charge?
Yes.
I raised this with Karen, the annual figure is 785.93.
Okay.
Yeah.
Feel more relaxed now.
You always pay at the beginning of the year.
Okay, in full.
Yeah.
That's fine.
So the forecourt is owned by the council and therefore subject to business rates. Is that correct?
I have to talk to Karen about
Yeah,
that.
I suppose it just flags up understanding the arriving at a business rate for a public space, I suppose.
Yeah,
or
no,
we lease it.
there has been work done with the business rates team, so
Yeah.
no, this is all
Yeah, it's
completely.
just,
Yeah.
I'm sure it is.
Yeah.
It's just understanding the
Yeah.
rationale.
Okay. 2D is okay, so next is 2E. It's item 5E, which is the bank account reconciled statement for March 25. Anything on this?
No, other than I think members should note that there was over £500,000 in the bank account at the beginning of the month and the same again at the end of the month.
Okay, so happy with 2E? Next is 2F, which is the cash book statement for the end of March 25. Anything on this? Anyone wishes to
I
raise?
suppose it's not an issue, but just a comment it's good to see the amount of additional income being generated by the forecourt, which is shown in here. So I just wanted to recognise that in terms of it does show that we have taken it seriously, the challenge in terms of meeting the loan on the forecourt.
Yes.
There's quite a lot of expenditure in here for the public conveniences. I've asked Karen about this, and because of the absence of a member of staff, we're paying about 10,000 extra for those. So it's something that needs to be addressed. Don't forget HR committee. Finally, penultimate is 5F. The cash book statement for the end of March, that's 2F. Attachment 2F, anything on this?
The only thing I had, which was, if that includes that, because I think they're all stapled together, is the reserve balances. And it looks like, similar to what Councillor Green was just saying a minute ago, we've got reserve balances totaling £191,948.
That's 2G. 2F.
I'm just wondering whether we're overestimating these reserves. I mean, things like Monk's Wall, we haven't got any sort of like leeway on, but the other ones, I'm just wondering. I mean, that just seems like a lot of money in reserve to me.
Well, I've queried this with Karen, and the operating funds to be kept in reserve, there is an expectation that we would always have 2 months cash flow in reserve, and the council, in terms of wages and everything, general cost turns over about 30,000 a month, so that's why we've got that 59,000.
Okay, thank you for that.
And that's the minimum you should have is 2 months. That's very close.
Yeah.
Very close.
Okay, so finally is the budget variance for the end of March, attachment 2G. Anything here anyone wishes to raise? No? So in that case, I propose that all of those items 5A to 5G, that we vote on those. Is anyone prepared to propose?
I'd like to propose.
Acceptance, proposed. Councillor Pennington seconding, all those in favour? So we're all unanimous on that. Okay, so they've all been.
Sorry, Councillor, can I just say, I know that some of you have been in contact with the RFO before the meeting, but if you do have queries, it would be really, really helpful. I mean, I'm been away for a little while, so I did know the answers, but if you could send those through to us, even on the morning of the meeting, I don't mind. I'd rather that than, you know, because otherwise I'm just having to delay sharing the information with you. Thank you.
Okay, item 6 is priorities, terms of reference, status and action log for this committee. Has everyone got sight of this? There's quite a few on here. I propose we go through these not one by one, but picking up on any outstanding items.
Can I just ask a general question about these action points, about which I've never been clear? I presume that some person is deciding on the category of priority, and I'd like to know who that person is.
Town clerk.
It falls on me basically, and what I have to do is juggle all the committees, the council, the Tollbridge Fund, the Muddocks, and decide for myself what I deem to be. But obviously we've got colour codings against some of these, you know, low, medium and high.
Yes,
so
I
clearly
colour coding.
anything
It's
that's
just that there's clearly a huge amount of discretion built into this, and I just wanted to know where the discretion lies.
So
it's for me to manage that.
my view would be that that's the starting point. The point is the role of the town clerk to do that, that the committee itself has the opportunity, should it think there's priorities that something should change, that would happen. But what I'm slightly concerned about, if we do, and I did mention it at the last night's meeting, if we just do skate through this, we have some things, and action usually means something happens. Some of these go back as far as March 24, so for me, they're not actions necessarily, so I think we do need to be critical about this, and I'm not saying we do it now, but I did ask last time that maybe we do it now. At some point, this needs to be gone through properly, because surely if it was an action over a year ago, we might actually want to remove it if we don't deem them as still relevant. And equally, some of them may have been completed without us knowing.
So if I may comment on some of them, because I'm concerned about the report. I think first up, the done column, the first column should be replaced with a number, and all of the items that are done and in green could be moved to the top, so that we work down, just a suggestion. But I was concerned that at the bottom there's the health and safety report, which is, you know, for me is a high priority. I've always said that health and safety should always be a priority. The relationship between Sandwich Town Council and Sandwich Tollbridge Fund is down as a medium, and again I think that, you know, needs to be elevated. A deep dive into the accounts is one of the actions, and again, given where we are at the time of the year, I think that, you know, that is an urgent priority. So, you know, those are comments on 3 of the items from me, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Councillor Pennington.
Yes, thank you. I think it's going to take too long if we just go through our individual comments now. What might be helpful is if we can go away from this meeting, look at it carefully and send in all our comments, and then maybe for the next meeting we could have another look at it.
Yeah. So the RFO, I think, mentioned to me that this has not been updated. Town clerk since the last meeting.
That's correct.
So I think if we can leave the town clerk to update it for the next meeting. I mean, I picked up a few of these just as priorities. So the risk register working group, I don't know where that's got to. The New Street telephone box, I think that can be taken off because it's up and running. It's not sealed up, but it's okay. It's fine. It's not urgent. The Boatman's Chapel, I mean, that goes back to September, I think, or no, October. So we need a report back on that about the deed of covenant, whether that can be changed. Folk and ale, I think that can come off because we've agreed that. Business plan, that's done, going to the next meeting, full meeting. Rent reviews for drill hall, that's on this agenda. So there are various things on there that I think can be updated, can come off. And I think, as Councillor Pennington said, if anyone has views on any of these items, if they just email them through to Jill and she can rearrange the order. And if you think the priority is wrong, it should be high when it's low, or vice versa, then let Jill know.
Yes.
So, are you happy for that to come to the next meeting as amended?
Yes, I think so, but I'd like to ask that the chair is involved in that review as well.
Yes.
As chair of this committee, it's their responsibility to make sure we
Yeah.
discharge our responsibilities
Yes.
correctly.
And sorry, the big one on this, on the second page, is the Finance and Asset Working Group, which has been outstanding since at least January. So that needs to meet urgently to explore the whole relationship between STC and STBM. So happy to note that, all those.
Are we taking into consideration Councillor Breen's comments?
Yes.
I shall write, take the action and I shall write in with
Yeah.
my
Thank
comments.
you.
Super.
So I'm happy to propose that
I'm happy to second.
the town clerk to deal with this and all councillors to write in. Happy? No? All in favour? Thank you. So the next item is item 7, abstention. Yeah. Noted. Net profit margin on the markets, verbal update on the Thursday and Saturday markets.
Thank you. Yes, I do have something to tell you. Yes, so basically, she was working on a report for this last week on the day of the meeting, on the day of publishing the agenda, and she'd only got halfway through it, so she does apologise, but it's a bit more complex than she first imagined, so she will get a report to you for the next committee.
Generally, these markets are going well.
Yes. Yes. Very well.
Yes, I mean, yes, we, as you're aware, we increased the fees. We've had no pushback. The Saturday market that started off quiet has now got very busy. And we've got 12 stalls for this Saturday. Thursday, we have a waiting list of people, and we're going to have more stalls out there. So that's been really, really positive. But you know, must mention that Lindsay has played a major part in that, and yeah, it's going very well.
And as the weather improves, it should be
Yes,
better and better.
yes.
So I think we probably need to look at it in a bit more detail. So is there a report that's going to come to the next meeting? Is that the intention? So if Karen was halfway through the report. So
Yes. Yes, that's what I said.
That's
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah. she
I
said-
think there's a bit more, rather than just saying everything's good, I think we need to look in a bit more detail. So for example, practical things like the number of gazebos, we're at exhaustion on some of those for some days. So we really, you know, as you grow, the one thing that undermines any delivery is that you actually suffocate it, and we are getting to suffocation point in terms of gazebos being available. And if you do that, then the risk is when it starts to shrink.
Yes.
You can't have that. We also, I think, I would like to drop into discussion around the antiques market as well.
Yes.
Because it's worth doing that. And it wasn't in this meeting, but certainly Councillor Black in a meeting asked for an analysis of cost versus revenue.
And this is what Karen was.
That's what
Yeah,
Karen
but
was
it wasn't,
introducing.
it can't have been in this meeting, Councillor Black's not a member of this meeting, is it?
No. Yes, he
Yes,
is.
yes, so it
Yes,
was,
he
yes, sorry, apologies.
Apologies.
So yes, so I think if we just ticked a box tonight, he would be a bit disappointed at the next meeting. So avoiding that.
And we need absolute accuracy about the costs.
That's why
As
it's
well,
happened.
business rates,
Mm.
costs of setting up,
Yes.
etc., etc.
Yeah.
Staffing.
Staffing
Staff
costs.
time, even the ones that are not putting them up, but we're still involved.
So
Our
it's-
time is still involved.
So it's a true picture.
Yes, exactly. That's what counts.
I think possibly Councillor Shuker has asked the question that I'm about to ask in a slightly different way. I don't really understand why there's a waiting list, because the market doesn't seem to fill the space. Is that because we don't have enough gazebos?
We do need more gazebos, but on Thursday there is a waiting list of people who want to join. So we're fitting them in the
Why are
spaces.
we not able to admit them?
Oh, we are, and they are coming.
But why is there a waiting list?
Oh, they're starting from next week. The extra ones are in place, but we are up to capacity with the gazebos.
It's the gazebos.
It is, yes, yeah.
Okay.
The space we can work with, it's the gazebos.
Yeah, and as I understand it, we got the gazebos as part of a grant from GDC, is that right?
Some of them.
So would we be able to repeat that? Or
No,
GDC?
that funding opportunity doesn't exist.
Okay, so we would have to buy some more
Yes.
gazebos.
Yes.
So presumably that will be in the report as to how many we have to buy and what cost they will be in order to satisfy the waiting list.
Mr. Chairman, sorry, yeah, I've also had a discussion with the property manager about space, just in case there was sort of problems with the space. And previously, I don't know how many people in this room remember, but previously the market did actually used to, I'm not saying it's a good idea, but it did used to also include stalls in the walkway, the tunnel, and also stalls at the back in the loading bay. I don't know how many people remember that, but we did used to have that option to expand, and I was telling the property manager at the back, we used to have things like people selling plants, nurseries and what have you at the back for things like that. So, and if it works, then I don't see why we shouldn't expand to that as well.
I have checked with GDC about the loading place, and they told me categorically we can't use them for market stalls. So
They never enforced it before. We had it week in, week out over the past yeah. I'd love to see them put a ticket on and ask for this one.
But I think it's a valid point in the sense of making a connection with the market on the forecourt and the stalls or businesses that run from the hub. We should do whatever we can to help connect them to, for example, market days, because that will encourage footfall to go beyond. And also for the antiques market, we know the divide between some stores indoors and the forecourt does present an issue.
Yes.
Are we charging differential rents? Because the antiques market is now both indoors and outdoors.
Yes.
I was surprised that we've also got stalls upstairs.
Indeed.
So are those people, do you feel they're advantaged or disadvantaged? And is there a price reflection in what they're...
So there isn't a price, the price is the price, and that's been set in agreement with Peterborough in terms of what's sensible for antiques markets. The first time we actually had a mixed economy was this Sunday.
Yes.
And I think it worked for one or two, but not necessarily for all. So
Yes.
I think what will happen is behaviours will change when stallholders realise where they think might get the best return. So, but one or two stallholders wanted to be inside.
Mm.
They did
And
not want to-
upstairs.
Yes. We are able to give them more space.
Oh,
So although it's the same price, we're able to give them more tables. And say some prefer to be inside, but certainly it was the first Sunday outside, and it's
And if the weather's
This
bad,
is-
there's extra off inside.
They will be
yes,
inside.
yes,
They will be inside, yeah.
yes.
Yes, thank you. I was interested in the Saturday market.
Mm.
I'm wondering how the take-up of stalls for Saturday compares with Thursday. Is it at sort of 60-70%?
Yeah, I would say it's. So we started off as we came into the new year very quiet
Yeah.
outside. But I think as the weather's improving, we're having more and more, and they're telling other people. So it's promoting itself actually in a way. So we're having a lot of people come over from the Deal Market that decided to come here, and so we've got new stallholders this Saturday. So yeah, it's going in the right direction. We've had no pushback whatsoever with the price increase, which is very good, and people are doing very well. You know, it's a real success. So.
That's true. I just wanted to say, Chair, and to answer Councillor Anderson's query, is I do find the advertising for the antiques market exceptionally good. I don't know if there's Councillor Chuka, but there's advertising A-boards right away from the outside, leading you right the way up to the top of the stairs. So I must say,
I'm not going to claim that one. I'll leave that
so
one to Julian.
the advertising
Julian's
is
got it spot on.
exceptional. So you don't get lost. You know exactly where you're going. There's an A-board right outside the front door, and as you come in, it guides you right the way through, and it takes you right the way upstairs. So I don't see any disadvantage to those upstairs.
No, I think from a local point of view, it's working well, but we just have to look now to expand our marketing to capture people from outside the area and bring them here. So that's what we're going to be working on.
And I propose the new Sandwich Town Council magazine may help with that. So.
Yes, we've got a nice article in there, I believe.
It's a nice article.
Yes, yeah. But going past that, I think we also need to go further afield. So, and we're working on that at the moment.
Can you remind us what the charge is for a Saturday?
Yes, Saturday here, £15 for a stall for the Saturday market.
Jesus.
Yeah, and for like a table, we're charging £5 because, but £15 for a stall.
I mean, there's one stall on Saturday that must make that back in the first 5 minutes.
Exactly.
I was going to say 4 minutes, but
They probably get that on just one or two items.
but that's good because it brings that stall in, particularly brings people.
It's a loss leader, not a loss leader. What's the word? Pump prime. It gets other people in.
What I would say though is market fees do vary locally. So whilst you might 15 is not a significant amount, Deal Market is very comparable in its rates, and that's a much busier market. But there are other markets like in Thanet where they charge a lot more. So you know, at some point for us, we have to balance it with our costs. With our costs,
Yes.
so we have to come at the right price that suits our market. It's not about trying to undercut Deal, for example. It's what works for us.
Yes, I'd say we are having a lot of traders now coming from who have been to Deal, left Deal, who are coming here. So.
Isn't there also issues there? Because isn't it a Deal that they have to put all their own?
And you get into a mixed sort of a Venn diagram of what happens or doesn't happen.
Exactly. Whereas here we've got exceptional staff who are there to assist and help with things. So really we've got, I would say, a much more superior service in Sandwich.
Okay, so we'll await a detailed report on this. Are you happy to note this for now?
Note the report. I've proposed noting the report.
We note. I'm not sure there's anything to note, but all in favour? Right, next item is 8, drill ball to receive a note or report from the property manager. Update on the rent review and the condition of the property, subletting and community related activities. Julian?
Yes, so I'll just go through them. Good evening. So we had the revised rent review, so using the details on the lease, successful in getting that obviously all agreed without any issue, and that started in March this year. So the rent has increased, so that's perfect. I mean, that's what we wanted to achieve. That's been achieved. Obviously, looking at the external condition of the property, with a view of what expenditure could we have in the future that we need to be planning for, so there's no sort of shocks. So I've been to the property. You can see I've taken some photographs. It's mainly at this stage the woodwork, the condition of the woodwork that needs attention. There's some mortar missing from the pointing along the front of the property, again, that needs to be dealt with. The responsibility, it's a full repairing lease that does come down to the tenants, but, you know, lessons learned, you need to, you know, obviously I will need to be on their case to making sure that this work's done, so it doesn't go to the next stage, which is obviously then causes more problems. So I will be working with the tenants, I will be producing a list of works that will need to be done. And again, it's sooner rather than later, because, say, painting the barge boards, rubbing them down and painting them, is far better than waiting 3 or 4 years and then having to replace them. So I'm dealing with that side of it. As far as the internal condition of the property, I mean, it's absolutely immaculate inside. Absolutely immaculate. I've been there, and actually Town Clerk has also visited. The electrics are our responsibility. The actual tenants had a report produced, so I've looked through that. There's no problems there. There's no dangerous items to worry about. However, we will need to pick up the next report. So the next one will need to be done prior to 2028. I've allowed 3,500. I will go obviously through to the RFO, 3,500 for the budget 2028 to 2029. It doesn't cost 3,500 to have a report done, but there may be some items, you know, that may need addressing at that stage. Our biggest exposure, not just on this property, but other properties, but focusing on this, is the changes in the EPC requirements. And this is major. I don't think we'll get anything else like this for a while. So what does that mean to us? Well, at the moment, this is an EPC-E. Okay, so which is not great. So it can be let at the moment. However, but in April 2028, the EPC will need to be a C or higher, and then it will change again to be a B by 2030. So, and it's our expense. So to put the property right will be our responsibility.
Yeah. Are you happy to take questions on each section?
Oh yes, please. So sorry. Yeah.
Your first.
Oh, sorry, yeah, so first of all, I just wanted to say thank you for this report, and thank you very much for the rent review, getting the rent up, because I believe we missed a previous milestone.
That's correct.
Of the rent going up.
Yes.
So in fact, we've been fools to ourselves, and we've actually been missing out on revenue that we could have had. So, but what I wanted to say was on the EPC part of it is obviously it's I don't know if it's actually listed. It's not, but it is within the conservation zone, and it is a particularly old, I don't know, Victorian or Edwardian building.
Yes.
Is there any sort of contributory factors to assisting us? Because obviously in a brand new house you can put UPVC windows in,
Exactly.
you can put more insulation, you can do things like that.
Yep.
I shouldn't imagine that those curved walls would have sort of like air gaps that you could fill with things like that. So could we look into, because to go from did you say it was an E to a C, I'm not quite sure how we're going to do that and why we should pay so much money when it's such an old building.
There are certain things that, you know, you can't do. And we're saying about the UPVC, you wouldn't be able to do that, but you would be able to put double glazing or secondary double glazing. So that's what we'll be working through. So my next report will be detailed. It will list everything on the EPC and what needs to be and what can be done. Now there is at the moment there is a 7-year payback test, where if the cost of the works required to the property to bring it up to the minimum EPC rating will be greater than the expected value of saving on the energy bills over 7 years. So again, I'm going to be looking at that, and there will be, you know, there are information available that will show me what we can and what we can't do. So I'm not saying it's going to be huge. It's not necessarily going to be a huge cost, but we're going to have to be doing things at the property, and it's coming soon. So, you know, it's around the corner.
What's above the suspended ceiling?
I don't know.
There's no insulation presumably in the...
That I don't know. That will need to be checked.
Yeah, and Councillor Carter covered the question that I had, but it triggered another thought in terms of energy consumption.
Yes.
Well, obviously, as it's a pizza place, energy is obviously quite burnt heavily.
Yes.
That might skew the figures as well.
Yes.
Possibly.
Possibly. Yes. Yeah.
Councillor Pennington.
Thank you. I understood that when you have an EPC done, they can also advise on what is the maximum possible
Yes.
EPC rating that you could achieve.
Correct.
And the cost of doing it.
And well, I mean, I'm just wondering, you know, you say, and I'm surprised that it's the same as applies to residential properties, that it has to be a C
It
by
does. Yes.
2030, is it?
No, that's sooner than that. Yes. At this stage.
I mean, is it possible we get it to a C?
Possibly to a D, but we wouldn't necessarily need to, as long as we do everything that is asked to be done. If it doesn't reach the C, but you've undertaken the work that's on there, then that's as far as you can take it.
And we're still allowed to let the place?
Yes.
It's not?
Yes.
I just wondered if money's to be saved on the energy, but they surely pay the energy bill, but we'd
Yes.
be paying the.
Yes.
So we.
Yes.
Yeah, we wouldn't make
This
sense.
is it. This is the problem with the leases at the time.
Yeah.
The new leases now, if you had if it was let again today,
Yeah.
we call them green leases today, and it you know, everything sort of changes. So it doesn't. It puts a bit more weight on the tenant, I think, rather than the you know, the landlord. But it is what we've got. I will just make sure we don't spend any more than we actually, you know, we need to. I mean, but the flip side of that is, if you have a commercial property that is at a better rating, you can achieve a higher rental, and it's more attractive to tenants. So, you know, there is that side of it.
I think that's probably been proven in the increased energy costs. No businesses wouldn't have been able to necessarily anticipate it. So, but now, it's
Yes.
in their mindset. Yeah.
And the roof renewal in 10, 15 years' time is
There may be some parts.
on us. That's our responsibility.
No, that would be the tenant. But assuming that tenant is still in situ,
Okay.
that would be outside of
the
our.
tenancy.
Yeah, that would be outside of the current tenancy. It would just be something that needs to be considered for future
Okay.
expenditure.
Sorry, yeah, I was just going to ask, because that was my next question, didn't know if we'd got onto that part yet. With the roof, because that is a considerable span,
Cheers.
you said it's the tenant's duty to undertake any repairs or replacing the roof.
Yes.
So are they setting up some sort of sinking fund or?
I wouldn't think that them or a lot of other tenants wouldn't actually be doing that. It's not something that a lot of the businesses are actually sort of considering, but it's something that they certainly need to be looking at. But it would sit outside of their current, the end of their current lease.
Yeah.
But it's certainly something from my point of view, we need to keep a close eye on.
Well, yeah, that's all I'm worried about.
Yes.
Because if the tenants don't do it, or the roof gets into such a state that they give us, say, 3 months' notice and leave, I don't want the town council to then find that we've got a massive roof span that we've then got to do something with,
Yes.
and magic up, what, 50, 60, 70?
Oh, a lot more than that.
Oh, more than that.
Yes. Yeah.
So that is a
Yeah.
concern I would like flagged up.
Yeah.
Really, is that
risk
roof.
register.
Can I say, it's really good that we're taking this kind of action on this property. I mean, it's something that we're working with the tenants to tell them what they have to do, and it's something we should have been doing, as we all know, with other assets going back 20, 30 years. And I'm thinking of a property close to here where they had a 60-year lease, so clearly over that 60-year time span they should have been making provision for major roof replacements or window replacements. So I think it's an issue for the future, because the tenant might say, okay, the roof needs doing in 20 years' time. Well, then my tenancy in 19 years' time, and then
Yes.
we're in trouble.
Certainly, what I've always done on when rent has been received on properties is to, and I think I covered this on my first reports, is that you've got to ring fence money.
Yeah.
got to have a pot that's
Sinking
being built
fund.
up, a sinking fund. You've got to have on all the properties. And
That's not been
essential.
happening.
No.
It is, you know, it is essential.
So can we move on to the subletting arrangements?
Sorry, yes.
You're happy with that?
Yes, so it's on the subletting. So,
I think that's fairly self-explanatory.
yes, it's something that's been approached before. You know, it was a topic that was in a meeting before, and they reduced the licence. The same people are in there.
And they're allowed to do that under their tenancy? To
They
sublet?
can, yes. Yes, I think there was a question regarding that before. Yes, I think it was.
So I went back and looked at the lease itself for this meeting, and I think it would be worth reflecting on what's in the lease. It's quite detailed in terms of underletting and in terms of the requirements on the lessee plus those that they then sublet to. And there's quite a role in it for the council, and I don't mean in terms of at officer level, but at council level, to actually agree. And it talks about things like only a 6-month period for someone to be underletting. So there's quite a bit in here that I don't think has been done, and I think we do need to visit this in terms of the two subletters at the moment. So as we do what we're required to do as a landlord.
Yes.
Okay. There's 2 pages in the lease around underletting.
So you'll take
I'll
that
review.
forward,
Yes,
yeah?
yes, review that.
Okay.
I mean, because there is one point is when someone takes a licence, which is what they did in 2023, when you go past a certain stage, they can have more rights than what was in original licence. But as far as their permission to be there, that's something I will have to look into. Obviously, we'll look into it.
And it might not change anything, but actually
Yes.
just we need to get a formal decision
Absolutely.
within the council to say this
Yes.
is, we are content.
Yes.
Yeah, as landlord.
I did actually think that had been before when the licence was shown to the town clerk back in 2023, so I wasn't sure of it.
And then the next bit
On
is
that.
community-related
Yes.
activities. This has been a bone of contention within
Yes.
the town for some time.
Yes,
So,
yeah. I mean, there's things that are happening there. You know, they are doing community-related activities. I've listed some. It was very long-winded, actually, the response, and so much that they went through. I just sort of picked the highlights out, and I think they've got, in my opinion, they've actually got the balance right. You know, they're running a business there in a tough industry, and at the same time, they're delivering to the local community, whether that's taking on people to help training them, the defibrillator outside, mental health awareness, that they're allowing them to to be there, different sort of arts, and I'm satisfied that they're doing what they can do. I think that sort of sets a benchmark. I think that other people could aspire to achieve
within the terms of their lease.
Yeah.
Are members of the committee happy with that?
I'm not aware of any of these things being advertised. I mean, I live round the corner and I was totally unaware of these activities.
Yeah.
So I don't know quite how they're recruiting users.
I know from my side we've had people that actually wanted to take space with that as well.
Yeah, I was just going to say, to answer that question once again, Councillor Anderson, on Facebook, on social media, they do advertise regularly, so they do. So magic evenings, they had something like making your own pizza evening.
Councillor Pennington.
That sounds interesting. Yes, in fact I was there at lunchtime. There is a lot of publicity on the doors which people will notice as they walk past. And I think they have tried reasonably to advertise what's available.
I suppose my observation, and thank you for the list, I think it is comprehensive, and I think it is evidence of their engagement with the community. But I think if you rolled back to the original intention around use of the space, but the SIP was supporting that. I'm not sure that that was ever executed in the spirit of the arrangements put in place, but I'm content with where they are now in terms of what they're doing.
I think we are where we are with that. It's,
Yes.
That's the point.
it's
Yeah.
a very popular business.
Yeah.
There are issues, but
Yeah,
to,
it should be.
to try and rock the boat now, I think
No,
would be not the right approach.
It's quite a unique sort of building as far as
Yeah.
what would happen there. So
And it does draw people in from outside of
does.
town,
Yes.
definitely.
yeah,
Which is a real plus.
I have to say, all the way through lockdowns, they were the one business that
Mm.
kept
Yeah.
going.
Right.
They were
Takeaways.
yeah, they were.
Fresh
Yeah.
bread.
they were like a
They're all there.
beacon of light in the darkness.
And they do maintain all their like health and safety, fire regulations, staffing. I think I went down there with the town clerk. A few of us went down, didn't we? And the guy said, I can show you all the records. He said, I've got all the staff training, first aid, fire safety, health and safety, everything. So, I mean, they are running the business excellently, I would say.
I mean, I like the fact that they're training young people,
Indeed.
yeah, as well. So that's very important.
And I can remember that John started on the forecourt with a pizza man.
Oh, right.
So we,
Yes, that's
we,
right.
we contributed to seed funding.
Of course, we don't allow vans on the forecourt.
No, not anymore.
Times have changed.
That was in the old cobble. Okay, so
And just finally, the property
Property
valuation. I mean, the RFO also said that we do need an up-to-date value for the asset register. I have an indication of what the value could be, but I think it's important. I'm just waiting for another quote to come in. So it's maybe not something that needs to be necessarily done immediately. And I'm mindful of the fact that we've obviously got this EPC to look at as well. So if I was going to allocate any funds, it would probably be that towards perhaps the EPC. But the RFO is keen to have that on the register, and also for insurance as well, for the reinstatement. So we have to really watch that. It can go both ways. So we need to look at that on that side. So I will come back on there and say I've still got a lot of work to do on the EPC. I've got the EPC. I know to go through the different points that are on there, but I don't know whether there's items that may have already been done by the tenant. So I need to check through that.
okay, so
Can I just ask a question?
sorry, Councillor Green.
Sorry, yeah, I note this quote for the property valuation. I, like you, I think the money would be better spent with the EPC consultant to understand exactly what the risk liabilities are.
Yes.
And in terms of the property valuation, I don't see any reason why we just can't ask 3 local estate agents
Yes.
to value the property and either take an average
Yes.
or whatever of
Yes.
that, without spending money bringing
Yes.
somebody in to do that.
Yeah, great. Yes.
That was basically what I was
Yes.
saying. It seemed a lot of money.
So are we happy to note this report and note that we'll have a more detailed report on the EPC at the next
We will
meeting?
do. Yes, next meeting. Yes, I've got the information. I just
All
need.
happy with that?
Yep.
So, thank you.
Thank you for the report.
Thanks for that,
No,
Julie.
no, thank you.
And it's good to see, as I said, that we're on top of these assets, making sure that they're looked after. The next item is item number 9, Fishergate.
Yes.
Again, this is Julian's report. Do you want to introduce this?
Yes. Fishergate. So this is mainly about the 2 items really. Looking at the funding aspect and the focus on the externals, the fabric of the building. I had a very good meeting with Councillor Green at the property and shared, each other's sort of views as far as, although I've been focusing on the inside, clearly there's so much needs to be done to the fabric of the building. So let's look at that and where we'll be able to obtain the funding to be able to get that property, shipshape for the future. it's not a short fix. It needs to have the money invested now that will take us literally, it's like restarting the clock, so we can, we can move forwards, into the future to know that property is safe. I've spoken with National Lottery and their Heritage Fund, and obviously there's a process that needs to be followed. You really only have one chance at it, and my recommendation will be that we have a consultant on board to actually do all the completing of all the documentation and put the strongest case forward on that side. They will not, and I've mentioned about holiday lets, you will not get the funding if you look for the outside, to do the project, if you're looking to do holiday lets internally. There's a lot of, there's still a lot of hoops we'll have to sort of, jump or get over as far as the dealing with the access and accessibility, which are two separate things that I would work on. I've spoken with Historic England as well. There is a real lack of funds available. The funds that have been have gone down year after year. So really, the point I'm at the moment is, and that's talking with Councillor Breen, that we need to get a listed building consultant on board. Obviously, this is separate than the consultant to do the application, but get them on board with their expertise and see exactly what we need to get funding for. And I've actually got a meeting next Wednesday morning with a consultant at the property. So I put in my conclusion that when a holiday let forms a major part of the end use, the chances of getting the funding that we're going to need is going to be reduced.
So could I ask because I looked through the Heritage website, are they saying that any use as a holiday let would not attract funding, or is there a certain amount of weeks per year that would not attract funding? Because the principle is public access.
Yes.
So if you're saying it will be open to the public, the landmark trust properties are open 1 day a year or 2 days, weekend a year, and we're proposing more public access than that. So what's the exact?
There is no exact until you put an application in. That's the point. And what we can do is do the pre-application first.
Because the argument we're making is if it's a holiday let, it's protecting it over the next 50, 100 years as a scheduled monument.
Yes, my idea was by having it as a holiday let, we were bringing in an income that could be used for the outside. We were also going to be able to get easier access into the property to do the work. But they're saying that the chances are, because I've got it in writing from them, it's going to be slim. But we've got an application, like a pre-app first, that we would do, that doesn't then, we would then be able to change or move. That's to get feedback from them. Then we can adjust that and put that forward as far as the actual, application. So it's not out of the question. Interestingly, when I spoke with Historic England, who came to the site, they loved the idea of holiday let. They really did, but they won't be funding it. They won't be funding it. If the property belonged to, one of us, as a council, you could actually go and get the grant to put it right if the property's at risk. It's not on the risk register, so it's not an easy one.
Okay, so we've got Councillor Carter, Councillor Anderson, Councillor Brown.
Thank you. Yeah, I think before we get into too much detail and depth, we're going to be employing a consultant. So perhaps let's wait till the consultant comes in and look at his findings as to what he suggests. And I think it's very important to have the consultant, whatever the cost, in order to get a really good application put in. Because apart from the pre-application advice, the property manager was sort of telling me that we'll get like one shot at this.
Yes.
So we need to get this right.
Yeah.
The other matter is that I know of, and which I think is important to put over, is not to do all the work all at once, but actually to do it piecemeal, to show what has been achieved from each bit. So instead of going crash bang wallop and making it look totally brand new, I don't know if that's in Julian's report, but that's what we should be doing. So, and I think we need to give that expectation out to the whole council that that is what needs to be done. So whereas before we had an understanding, okay, let's get a load of contractors in there and get it suitable for holiday lets for like summer 2026 or something like that, we've got to be more realistic about our intentions, I think. Thank you.
Yes, I'm confused on two grounds. We're talking about two different kinds of consultants.
Correct.
So the consultant that we are talking about right now is the listed building consultant,
The two.
who would be a surveyor, presumably, who would confirm or deny or
They would
look
be an
at,
expert in their field of
and this
historic
would be a
buildings.
surveyor.
That's correct.
Right.
Yes.
Okay, and then the second kind of consultant we're talking about is somebody who's very good at writing grant
To do the applications, yes, a specialist.
Okay, so we're currently discussing the appointment of a listed building consultant.
Yes.
That's what we're talking about. Okay. The second confusion that I have is about this term access.
Access, yes.
Because that can have a huge variety of meanings.
Yes.
And we all know about, that websites have to have access built into them. That's a different kind of access.
Yes, exactly. So this is access.
This access term is coupled here with inclusion. So that's the source of my confusion. Are we talking about physical access?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So if we're talking about physical access, does that, the fact that it is impossible, and I see that you think that there is some way around this, but it seems to me, just looking at that building, that it would be impossible for anybody with mobility issues
Yes.
to gain access to any, whatever we put up there, whether
Yes.
it's an Airbnb or a
Right.
museum. So does the fact that we cannot resolve that problem, does that not exclude the possibility altogether of
No.
getting a national lottery fund?
No, it doesn't. It reduces, and I'll explain the reasons why in my next report. It will go into detail. But accessibility is a different subject. It's a different matter. Accessibility is allowing the people to have an experience of what's in there. Accessibility, not without necessarily going into the building itself.
Right. Okay, so it's
So
a sort
that-
of crypto experience.
Yes.
Is that the right word?
No different to Dover Castle or anywhere.
Yeah, I mean there are
Cyber, that's the word.
Yes. So it's allowing, it's giving other options for people to experience what's actually inside the building, which I'll go through next. Or I can go through it now.
Virtual
That's
experience.
Councillor Breen.
Okay, so, right. So you put on a pair of spectacles and you're in it.
You could, yes, yeah, like a doll's house.
But you have to have a place for people to be able to do that.
Correct.
And that could be a part of
That
the
could,
drill.
exactly. It could be there. It could be at the property. It could be here from the museum. There's a lot of variations. I've done something similar in a property. So yeah, it's an experience. Yeah.
Councillor Breen.
Thank you, Chair. As Julian said, we did actually meet and we had, I thought, a good meeting where we were aligned in our thinking. And I just wanted to kind of clarify that one of the big things that came out of that was to have an enabling package.
Yes.
Because we need a report that comes to the council to say, this is the cost of removing the panelling and all of those types of things, so that the surveyors can actually look at it properly. Because any funding will be for repairing the fabric, and so it's that enabling package which is a precursor to doing any further work, and it would include the consultant. The second thing, which has just kind of cropped up tonight, Julian mentioned that kind of emergency and risk fund if building is at risk. And I think you would agree with me that the stone window on the first floor to the south is actually huddled. The frost, the moisture has got into it, into the stonework. It's frozen, it's expanded. That window, a stone in that window is turning to dust. There is a pile of dust by the window. So much so that the metal windows are not necessarily properly attached to the stonework. And I think that's a real major ticket item. I know that Julian discussed with our local stonemason, and she said that the work that's needed in there was too big a project for her to do. So I wanted the council to understand, because the total cost of actually repairing the fabric to do it properly is a substantial amount of money.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I'd like to strongly support what Councillor Green said. I'd also visited Fishergate with Julian, and not only are the external issues very urgent, but you can't draw a line completely between the external and the internal, and it does need someone to take off all the cladding that's been put on internally and look at the whole building as a whole and see what might be required. But I would support his statements that there are issues with the building which do put it seriously at risk in a structural sense, in my view. So I think we need to move ahead on the basis that Councillor Green suggests.
Yes, so I'd just like to very quickly turn to the other consultant that was referred to, which is regards funding. There's a bit of a chicken and egg situation, because I expect funding applications may well need to have a vision set out in terms of what we want to do in the building in the future, rather than just saying we want to make it safe.
That's fine.
Yeah,
exactly.
But so therefore we will, as a council, need to talk about what we see as the vision. Airbnb, community hub, whatever it is. So that will need to come to us. But also, we've talked about the national lottery as being a funding route. There are other funding routes available. I just want to make sure that we aren't blinkered, because I only picked up yesterday about the Heritage Revival Fund, which went live this month, and that again is for historic buildings that are neglected, and so there almost certainly will be a multiple opportunities around funding, but predicated on what the vision is we have for the building may well decide the right routes. So we just need to be careful we don't be blinkered and say the lottery fund is the only route.
No,
and we get it
there
wrong.
are options out there.
Yeah. So the Heritage Revival Fund has gone live, and it's live until March next year, and it has £270 million available.
So, Julian, are you saying that we should appoint the two consultants, Beth and Listed Building Consultant?
Sorry, Beth is actually from the, she's not the consultant. Sorry, Beth is from,
from the National Lottery.
Yes. So look at...
Who was the consultant that Morris proposed?
Well, I was waiting if Morris would provide the details.
Oh,
But that's a different consultant.
No.
That's a grant application.
Right.
consultant.
Yes, it's a grant application.
But we're talking at the present, as I understand it, about a listed buildings.
Yes.
And what sort of fee would that be?
I'm meeting one next week and another one, so yes, I'll be able to report back on the fees.
But I think it's important to note, if holiday let is a non-starter, I mean, holiday let is, everyone knows a property that's occupied is much better off than a property that's empty.
No, yes.
So, you know, if we can't use it as a holiday let, what are the other potential uses?
Yeah.
Or does it just stand empty because of this requirement for public access? But as Councillor Schuker said, there are other forms of funding.
Yes.
and we could fund it ourselves if we wish to, or through a mortgage or.
It could be part through one funder for the externals and part for the inside.
Or we decide it's no longer an asset, it's a liability,
Yeah.
and we sell it.
Yeah.
But I think the report to the next meeting needs to be absolutely clear
Yes.
about all of the options, all of the
Yes.
permutations, so that we have clear decisions to make.
It does say the recommendation from the property manager is to await his next detailed.
Yes, it will be once I
Yeah,
get
So
all
I
the
think-
figures in.
I think really
Yeah.
this report, we just need to know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the property manager's got 2 meetings in the next 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think we should really park it, because we're starting to go off making assumptions, I believe
No, no.
now.
And the Heritage Harbour Trust, what's the position with them now?
Oh, that's quite a longer story,
Okay, I
but
won't go into
we're working on something with DDC on that, so the property manager and I, so I don't think we should include that at this stage.
Okay.
Can I just make sure that when we do have a detailed report, it includes a clear specification of what we're going to get from the consultant in terms of the review of the building, so we can make a really
Oh,
informed
yes.
decision.
Yes, yes, it will do.
Okay, so any other comments on this? So are we happy to
Propose to note in the report.
that we bring a detailed report to the next meeting, hopefully with all the options and permutations and recommendations? Okay, happy with that?
Propose.
Thank you.
Sorry, next one, who's second that?
I proposed it.
I'll second.
Sorry, that's it.
So, item 10, date and time of next meeting is the 28th of May, 6:30. Thank you.